Right. And it's going somewhere I pay for.
It's just one night. Can't you use a visitor spot? It's not that far.
I need the spot tonight. I'm 34, and I've been paying $87 a month for a reserved parking spot in my townhouse community for about 2 years now. I have a kid and a full-time job and a commute that requires me to leave the house at 6:15 on the dot, or the whole day goes sideways in ways I can't always recover from by noon. My daughter's name is Ren, she's 4. She goes to a daycare that opens at 6:45, and that's the only detail about her that's actually relevant here. The neighbour moved in maybe 6 weeks ago, unit directly to my right if you're facing the building from the parking lot, and I noticed the installation crew before I noticed him. 2 guys in grey shirts drilling something into the exterior wall on a Saturday afternoon when I was trying to get Ren down for a nap. He introduced himself about a week later in the parking lot, said his name was Marcus, that he'd just bought the unit. The charger was there on the wall, a boxy grey panel with a coiled cable hanging off it, and the cord reached exactly as far as the edge of my parking space on the days his car was plugged in. For the first couple weeks I didn't think much of it because the cord was on the ground, and his car was in his spot, and everything technically looked like it was in the right place.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't even think the cable would reach over there.
It's fine, just if you could move it.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 minutes. I'll be right down.
Okay.
Seriously, my bad. I'll figure out a better setup.
The first time I came home and found his car in my spot, I actually double-checked the number on the post, the way you do when you're so sure you're right that you feel the need to confirm it. And yes, it was my spot, the number matched, and his car was sitting there with the charging cable plugged in and humming in that faint, low-frequency way that you feel through the soles of your shoes before you actually hear it with your ears. I called the number on the small laminated card he'd given me when we met. I don't know why I'd kept it. I just put it in the junk drawer and it stayed there. And he picked up right away and was very apologetic. Said he hadn't realised the cable would stretch that far and he'd come right down, and he did. The second time was maybe 4 days later. Same situation, his car in my spot, cable taut and humming, and he picked up again. Still apologetic, but in a way that had a slightly different texture to it. A small hesitation before the sorry, like a word that's been said enough times that it starts to sound like something else. This is my spot.
I mean, technically the cable has to go somewhere.
Right, and it's going somewhere I pay for.
It's just one night. Can't you use a visitor spot? It's not that far.
I need the spot tonight.
I'll move it first thing. I promise. Before 7.
By the third time, he let it ring through to voicemail, and I stood in the parking lot with my keys in my hand, and Ren in her car seat inside the unit still needing to be buckled in. And I left a message that I tried to keep neutral. He called back 40 minutes later to say he'd move it first thing in the morning, and when I said I needed the spot tonight, he said, "Oh, can't you just use a visitor spot for one night?" Which is the kind of sentence that sounds reasonable if you say it fast enough and don't think about what it actually means. The visitor spots are on the far side of the complex, which adds about 4 minutes to the walk in good weather, and is a different experience entirely when it's raining or when you're carrying a sleeping 4-year-old, or when it's 6:10 in the morning and you need to leave in 5 minutes. I started keeping a mental log around week 3, not writing anything down, just noting it in the way you note things when you're not sure yet if you're overreacting. And the pattern was something like his car in my spot 3 or 4 times a week. The cable always involved in some configuration, sometimes looped up over the post between our spaces in a way that I couldn't tell if it was intentional or just the path of least resistance. Hey, quick question about the charger install. Do you know if there's anything about the adjacent spots?
I'll look into it. I think the installation itself went through the board, but let me check the easement language.
Yeah, it's less about the install and more about where the cable ends up.
Got it. I'll reach out to him about that.
I'm not trying to make it a thing. I just want to know where the line is. I texted Priya, the property manager, one Tuesday afternoon. Not a formal complaint, just a, hey, quick question about the charger installation next door, and whether there's anything in the easement language about adjacent spots. and she replied within the hour saying she'd look into it. The message she sent after that first one said she believed the installation was permitted through the HOA, which answered a question I hadn't quite asked. I didn't follow up yet because I wasn't sure what I was actually asking for. One afternoon, I came home and found a small orange cone sitting at the edge of my spot. Not blocking it, just sitting there at the corner, and I don't know where it came from or what it was supposed to signal. And when I picked it up and moved it to the grass strip, Marcus happened to come out of his unit at exactly that moment, and we did the wave and nod thing that neighbors do when they don't have a script for the actual conversation.
I did talk to him about the cable management, so hopefully that helps.
The car was fully charged and the cable was still there.
I hear you. I think he's still figuring out the routine.
It's been a few weeks.
I know, let me know if it keeps happening and we can go from there.
One morning, I walked past his car, and the charging indicator light was green, meaning fully charged, meaning the car had been done for a while, and he just hadn't moved it, and the cable was still looped over the post and humming, and that small, mechanical fact sat in my head in a way that the bigger inconveniences somehow hadn't, because it meant something about timing and intention that I couldn't square into an accident. Priya sent me a follow-up a few days after my initial text that said she'd reached out to Marcus about appropriate cable management and that she hoped things were working themselves out. And the phrase working themselves out sat with me in a specific way, like a description of a process that implied no one was doing the work. I kept noticing the charger cable in my peripheral vision in a way I hadn't before. And some evenings when his car wasn't even in my spot, I'd still clock the cable from the window just to see where it was, which felt like a new habit that I hadn't agreed to develop. This morning I walked out at 6:12, keys already in my hand, Ren inside in her jacket eating half a banana, and I heard it before I saw it. That low hum, the one that's more vibration than sound. When I turned the corner of the building, the first thing I registered was that my car had something on it. The charging cable was looped over the roof of my car, a clean arc from one side to the other, plugged into Marcus's car, which was parked so close to my driver's side door that when I tried to open it, the door made contact with his bumper after about 8 inches and stopped there. 8 inches being not enough to get in the car. I called Marcus's number and it rang 4 times and went to voicemail in that particular way, where you can hear the line engage and disengage and, not just assume but know that the phone was seen. The parking lot was empty, except for our 2 cars and the orange cone which was back, sitting at the corner of my spot again, and the cable hummed over the roof of my car in the early morning quiet. I called Priya's number and got her voicemail too because it was 6:14 on a weekday morning, and of course I did. The charging indicator on Marcus's car was green. I noticed that right away this time. Green meaning done, green meaning finished, green meaning the cable was just staying there now, because it had been placed there, and nothing had moved it. I stood there with my keys in my hand doing the math I always do, the 6:12 to 6:45 math, the how many minutes of buffer do I have math, and the answer was not enough for this.